Guess what time it is? It's time for the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Claudette Spencer Nurse worked as a lawyer for the Legal Aid Society Prisoners' Rights Project right here in New York City. Her job was to make sure prisoners' civil rights weren't violated. And then her life took a dramatic turn, and she tells us all about it in her book entitled Memoirs of a Prison Lawyer. So tell us about this turning point, Claudette.
Along the way, I was visiting Elmira Correctional Facility, investigating a case, and that's when I met my husband, serving 25 years to life. He was a prisoner.
What did he do?
Um, Murder.
How did you have a relationship?
It was kind of kept secret for a long time, as the book indicates. I kept it under wraps. I mean, at the time, I was actually engaged with somebody else. I would visit there, and not something you expect, but it happens. And I would visit him as a visitor, not as an attorney. And we didn't get married right away because they used to have a law in New York that he was serving a term of 25 to life. So anybody who was serving a life sentence, if they weren't married already, they lost their civil rights, including the right to marry.
What did you fall in love with?
I can't put my hand on that. Just his mannerism, his charm, his style. And just we began talking and we just kind of clicked. Hard to really say.
You just made a connection with this man.
Right. Just not a good situation because you're kind of mixing business with pleasure. So it wasn't something that I was, anxious to scream out at the top of my lungs. It was not right. I kind of agonized over it for a very long time and kept it a secret. I think, the book is written to kind of make the point that people deserve a second chance. And yes, as he put it, he killed someone, but he's not a killer. And, he made a mistake. He was 19 at the time. He paid for it. He did 25 years. And he, is not the same person together now 33 years later. And he's just not the same person that he was back in 1977, which is when the crime occurred. So I think that the point that I would like to really get out is that people deserve a second chance, and sometimes you have to look behind the cover to see something. And he's a decent person. We just happen to fall in love. And 33 years later, we're still together.
But the book isn't just about you falling in love. It's about some of the things that you experienced while being a lawyer in the New York prison system.
Exactly, New York City State Prison, about the cases that I handled, including one in Bedford Hills, which is the women's prison, where a dentist was working on women in prison, who was an alcoholic, used to work on the women in prison, and we filed a case against them. So it's a love story, but it's more than that. It's just a story about somebody who continues to fight against the system, with my husband being behind bars, racism that you encounter there, and also a case in Elmira, which is the case I was investigating, with discrimination against Black and Hispanic people in prison, in housing and discipline and jobs. It's a lot more than just about me and my husband. Also wrote it for the people who are in similar circumstances so that they know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that, sometimes they feel like, oh my God, I'm not going to ever get through this, and that they can see that, we made it through and are the better for it. And just people can learn from it in so many different ways, not to be judgmental, and also for those who are still there to have an example of somebody who made it beyond the walls and was successful.
Good enough, Claudette. Thank you. Robert Jacob describes himself as a glorified accountant who had a Whipple. And if you don't know what that is, listen up. The name of his book is Whippled, Not Whipped. So explain what a Whipple is.
Well, the Whipple is a procedure where they take out your pancreas, and most people that actually have the Whipple are patients that have cancer in the pancreas, which is pretty fatal. But for me, it was a actual issue with recurrent pancreatitis, and I had it done for pain management.
So when you get pancreatitis, you're in a great deal of pain.
Yep. Spent, I had about 12 acute attacks, and each of them I ended up in the hospital for 3 to 4 days.
I didn't know you could live without a pancreas.
Well, that is what I thought too. But your pancreas does two functions for you, and one is it helps you digest food, fats, with the amylase and lipase, and the other helps you digest basically the sugars, and the islet cells help you do that. So I actually had a auto transplant where they took the islet cells out and put them into my liver. So my liver acts kind of like my pancreas does.
That's incredible.
Absolutely. Anybody that's gone through the Whipple will attest that nothing is great about the experience, nor is, the survivorship of the Whipple. It's definitely a challenge every day. But I wrote the book really to help inspire people to see that no matter, what is given to you as challenges, you can make the best of it and still have a wonderful life. It really drew me closer to God and in the Bible, and doing a lot of internal looks at myself and how I perceive the world, and really decided that it's not how the world sees me, it's how I see the world and what I can bring to it. So it's a story of inspiration for people going through challenging times.
What was your greatest challenge?
I think just, getting through the Whipple itself, being in the hospital, never knowing when you're going to end up in the hospital for 3 to 4 days, trying to raise 2 little boys and keep a marriage together, and everything that goes along with a chronic illness. It just really brought me closer to God.
Well, you kind of find yourself in a situation where else are you going to turn, right?
You got it.
What is pancreatitis?
In my personal diagnosis, it was idiopathic, recurrent, acute pancreatitis. And one of my favorite lines from the book is, the doctors, after they did all the tests, told me idiopathic, and I had no idea what it meant. So I asked the doctor, and he said, idiopathic means we're idiots and don't know why you're getting sick. For the vast majority of people, pancreatitis has to do with alcohol consumption, long-term alcoholism, or gallbladder disease. But really what's happening is your pancreas is decided that it produces these digestive enzymes, and it starts digesting itself. So you end up in just severe pain. I mean, it's debilitating pain, where the hospital stay was really just, the support of pain management and fluids to keep you hydrated, because there's nothing they can do for an inflamed pancreas other than have you fast and rest. So I really just, spent 3-4 days on large amounts of painkillers, and that gave me a lot of time to negotiate with God, if you will. My church has actually asked me to speak with the women's groups. It's going to be a speaking engagement where I talk about not just the book, but I want to be an inspirational kind of perspective. And the book isn't, one of these, I got this incision and I got that cut. It's really a personal delve into how I overcame the things I had to.
Well, you're on your way, Robert. Thank you. Jessica Peters owns a dairy farm in Pennsylvania with her family, and her nephew inspired her to write farm nursery songs. And this book has taken off in a way she could have never imagined. Listen up.
I have another brother who lives in Florida, and he had a 2-year-old son at the time who loved the farm, but, was a little far away. And I read a book that he had about construction equipment with little farm songs in it, and I thought I could do that about our farm. So I actually, while I was milking cows, I'd write the songs in my head and write them down on my phone when I had a minute. And Set to tunes like the old nursery songs like Itsy Bitsy Spider or the Baa Baa Black Sheep. I kind of just rewrote the songs into my own words about what we do on the farm every day.
How many songs are there?
There are 11 songs.
Can you sing any for me?
Actually, I can. I can sing you my favorite one. It's called Three Brown Cows.
Do it.
It's to the tune of Three Blind Mice.
Okay.
It goes, three brown cows, see how they lick, see how they lick. They like to lick the farmer's face. They follow the farmer all over the place. They don't get the concept of personal space, those three brown cows. And that's a true story. My cows are like all over us all the time.
So you're a dairy farmer in Pennsylvania. They're hard to find.
I am. Less common than they used to be, that's for sure.
Yeah, so this introduces kids to the fact that there are dairy farmers in America.
Right, yeah, and what my favorite thing about the book is there are real farm photos in it. Real photos from my farm of us, my family and I working, and our cows and our equipment. The feedback I get from, kids see illustrations every day, all day in other books. And the feedback I've been getting from the books I've sold are that kids can't stop looking at the real photos.
Because they're real.
Exactly.
What a concept. You said you've sold some already?
Yeah, I actually have a farm Facebook page where I just kind of share our farm life, what we do every day, and talk about what we do. Because like you said, not a lot of people know a dairy farmer or know anything about what we do. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, just sharing my everyday life. And I put out in there when it first became available in June. And, my followers have been sharing it, and I sold quite a few books. So it's been a crazy ride.
So you haven't even gone out to do book signings or anything like that. You've just been posting on Instagram and people have been sharing, and that's how you're selling books.
Pretty much. I did do a book signing at my county fair last week, which was weird. I didn't write this book with the intention of publishing it. So everything that's come after has been kind of crazy.
It's like the syrup on the pancakes, man.
Pretty much. And the reason I ended up publishing it was I donated a copy. I made a few copies and donated one to my nephew's preschool. And my brother told me one day that the teacher kept asking him questions about farming. And he said, I'm happy to answer them, but where are these coming from? And she said, the book that your sister wrote. She was singing the songs to the kids, and parents were asking where they could buy it. And she was asking questions about what we do and why we do it. And I thought, what a great way to introduce real farming to people.
What are the most common questions you get?
I think, how did I have time to do it? Dairy farming is 24/7, 365. I work 18 hours a day doing this. A lot of people can't believe I had time to actually write a book in the middle, but we have a really hard, busy life. So anytime I can have fun or make something fun, I do. It's kind of one of my things in life. If life's not fun, what's the point?
What's next? Tours? You got to bring the kids out on tours of the farm?
We do quite a few tours already, actually. I have a kindergarten class that comes every year, and we have a college in town. We do a lot of college tours. We're a very public farm. We have a main state highway runs right through the middle of it. So yeah, and I'm thinking about other book ideas. While I'm milking cows or out on the tractor, I've got a lot of time to think. Just putting it into action takes me longer than most people probably.
Well, what's also cool is you're a woman.
Yeah, and that one of my friends from high school, her daughter actually, it was not an intention of mine, but she said her comment was that how cool it was. She didn't know that women could farm. And well, here we are.
So any advice for aspiring authors, since this is your first book and you've just had this runaway success that is so unheard of?
Just do it. I mean, I had this idea for a long time, and I had multiple people pushing me to send it to a publisher, and I thought, no, nobody's going to want to read this book. But the feedback has been amazing. I'm so glad I did. Excellent. If you have an idea, the worst thing they can do is say no, and you have to change it.
See, good advice, Jessica. Thank you. We have got to take a short break, but we're coming right back, and so should you. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books, and unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them, and they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
We're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Lamont Chapman writes science fiction, and he had a dream that just wouldn't go away. His first published book is entitled The Spread, and his book signings are almost as lively as the book itself. Lamont.
It's apocalyptic science fiction, but it's got a lot of twists, a lot of turns, and I'm just without ruining it and giving away any plot twists. It's got something for everyone. It's got a lot of surprises that you won't see coming. Thomas Pratt, he's the main character. He's a former military, former Navy SEAL, but he moved back to his hometown, Ghostwood, West Virginia. And he becomes a sheriff there. When things just start to go bad, there's a interjection of course, every hero needs a villain, and his name is Caleb, and once it starts going bad, the sheriff gathers a small group of survivors, and basically, he's just trying to get them out of there, And it spans across, a couple of different states. The only reason that the infected are basically what has, the people have been turned to. They've been infected with the virus that just basically, turns them into killing machines. And when they get infected, they don't know who you are anymore. There's no more friends or family or relationships. It just becomes about survival at that point. This is the first of three. And of course, it always has to get worse.
Gets worse before it gets better, just like life.
Oh, right, yeah, just like life. Basically, one of my main things I hit on is that, it starts in West Virginia, it goes like to Washington, so you deal with a lot of different people, a lot of different backgrounds, and a lot of different races. And then at the end, you just find out that, none of that matters. It doesn't matter what color you are, or what you think, or what you believe in. If you want to survive, you'll learn to work together, or you're not going to make it.
Are you, do you do book signings or anything like that?
Yeah, I did a book signing at Barnes & Noble on the 10th. I did a book signing. It went really well. A lot of people show up, and Barnes & Noble was great. It was a really good evening.
How did you get that going?
Well, I got going. I just, I got off, my butt, did some work and meeting some people. I met the account manager at the Woodlands location. She looked at the book and she agreed to a signing. She actually set me up for another one. We haven't set the date yet, but yeah, she invited me back, and we're going to do another book signing at that location at the Barnes & Noble in the Woodlands, Texas.
Do a lot of sci-fi fans come out to your book signings?
Yeah, it was great. On my Instagram post, you can follow me at The Spread Novel on Instagram. I posted some pictures and some videos, of the night, and it was a really good day, a really good evening.
So Instagram works for you?
Yes, yeah, Instagram is great. We're at about 1,700 followers. We get good feedback, and it's a really good platform.
Huh? Do you post excerpts from your book?
Yeah, I do everything. I'll post. I search the web and I find pictures and content that matches. And then I'll do some other things like choose your weapon. And talk about the book a little bit. What would you do in this situation? And we get some decent interaction from the people. It could always get bigger, but I'm happy with how it is.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's more than a lot of people have. So that would be your suggestion to aspiring authors: use the Instagram and the Snapchat.
Yeah, you gotta use all the platforms you have available, especially the free ones.
Yeah.
It's really important to try and get your work out there, but also, you don't want to. You don't sit there with your work so long and until it doesn't get done. Keep trying to make it perfect, trying to get the perfect draft, the perfect sentence, the perfect word. Because if you do that, it's going to sit on your laptop and it'll never get out there. Probably the biggest advice that I would give to anyone that's writing is finish it and get it out there.
That's right. You don't know until you try. Terry Larkin wrote a little bit when he was in the Navy back in the 80s, but Marshall Sean Felton and the Wild Bunch is his first published book. And when I asked him what he did for a living, I realized Terry has a pretty amazing story of his own.
Well, right now I'm a T4 paraplegic, paralyzed to center my nipples down. Have been since January 9th, 92.
Wow.
I drove truck out of Denver for 5 years before I got put in my wheelchair, and was in the Navy for 5 years prior to that.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Well, life's not over unless you let it be, you know.
Wow. Good for you.
In the Marshall Sean Felton and the Wild Bunch, originally I typed it on paper, and I had an old computer, and some friends talked me into putting it on there. Well, I had about 90 pages on it, and then, unbeknownst to me, my old finger hit Alt-X, and I lost it. And like an idiot, I pushed save, so I lost 90 to 100 pages.
Ouch.
I wrote first, second, third, and fourth chapter first. The Marshal blows a bunch of outlaws up with nitroglycerin, with an accidental shot into the wagon load of nitro. And the head outlaw just happened to have a set of identical twin cousins, Larry and Gary Larkin, over in Baker City, who the Marshal's known for being judge, jury, and executioner, bringing them in over the saddle. So they wanted to go question him. So I got them up over the top of the Elkhorn Mountain Range outside of Baker, Oregon, down into Sumter Valley. In real life, 1910 through 26, they dredged the Sumter Valley, 2,600 acres, and took out over $10 million in gold. My book's a BS story, so they can mine that valley anytime I say they can. When Butch and Sundance walked into it, then I had to go back and get the Marshal on the trail, where a young buck Indian Wapiti comes to the Marshal and wants him to train him to be a lawman in the 1892 West. Then I brought him back in for a short chapter, and then the next chapter I found out they only load the real gold 1 day a week. So I have to hold Marshal and Wapiti up for 3 days. So I came up with the high dollar poker tournament in John Day, Oregon, where they watch over a security, where Wapiti does get tested as a young wannabe Indian lawman. The Marshal, he gets to crow, but in the end eats crow, pardon the pun. Before the robbery, I have 2 groups I have to write morning, noon, and night for. After the robbery, I have 4, which I have to bring all back together to 1 to none. The pre-robbery festivities, there's an old cowboy song about a strawberry roan. Marty Robin does it best, and it's about a mean-ass bucking horse. Well, when the twins are starting to head out to go get their brother Randy in Sumter, Larry needs a mountain horse, so their grandpa Dude suggests that he takes a big roan that he has. He's not a strawberry roan, but he's a roan, and he's 18-1 and a whole lot of fun. In other words, he bucks like a son of a gun. And so the pre-robbery festivities are the work up to the bucking competition. They bet 10 men can't cover the horse for 8 seconds with the flank strap on him, and that's the pre-robbery festivities.
All right, so we're just at the beginning of this adventure. We're going to read this book, and then we're going to read the sequel.
Right.
Good enough. All right, Fred Allen has written quite a few books, but says he published the best one. It is entitled Reform, and you say you wrote it at a time of turmoil when you were going through a rough patch with your girlfriend. All right, tell us more.
Well, the story is about a guy who comes home from work one day and discovers that his wife has been murdered by a serial killer. He's still there and almost kills him. The character's name is Ed. But Ed manages to get away and get his hands on a weapon and kills the guy. You would think that would be the end of it, but then he spent his life fighting to keep himself out of jail because they prosecuted him. Anyway, he won. Didn't go to jail, but still he had a very bad feeling about just the way the whole thing happened, and one day stumbled across the means to maybe make a difference. So he decided to try. And the name of the story is Reform. He lost his career and almost lost his house and just about everything. Fortunately, he managed to survive that. But, as you might imagine, it left him feeling very bad. I know this is going to sound strange. He sort of declares war on the government. It's very in keeping with a lot of the political sentiment of today. That's another reason why I chose this one. I wrote it a few years ago, and actually the Times kind of caught up with the book in a way.
So you think it's more relevant now than it was when you wrote it, even?
Yes, absolutely.
You said you and your girlfriend were going through a rough patch. That's what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, we were having some troubles at the time, and she likes the book, but she tells everybody she doesn't like the book because I kill her on page 1.
Oh, you had to get it out somehow, right?
Something like that.
Are you still with her?
Yes.
Oh,
we've been together since 1991.
That's great.
To be honest, my greatest hope for this book is that I get enough sales to attract the attention of an agent, a literary agent, so that I might have an opportunity to sell some of my other books.
Okay, which are more they're in the sci-fi vein.
Yes, they're mostly science fiction. Yes.
So this book's one and done. There's no sequel or anything like that coming back.
Not a lot of possibility for a sequel now.
Okay.
As you might imagine, Ed is sort of an anti-hero.
Yeah.
And most anti-heroes don't generally survive the story.
Okay. Any advice for aspiring writers listening to this interview?
Keep trucking. It takes a long time and a lot of trying, and you get 1,000 no's. But one day, yes will come, and when it does, you're on your way.
Aw, Fred, that's so sweet. Yes, one day your yes will come. It will. It's true. You just got to believe. And most important, you really have to write something down. So why don't you go do that while you're thinking about it? And thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks to all of our authors. And if you missed anything at all, just download our podcast at 710WOR.com. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Enjoy the rest of your week. Right on, people.